What are you drinking?
challenge.
Is it orange cream Coca-Cola?
I love this mug, by the way.
It's a cute mug.
It's a massive fucking mug, though.
But are you drinking tea from that mug? Like, what are you
Tea.
drinking in there?
That's like a
tea.
liter.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
liter of tea in
Hey,
that
It's
mug.
tea.
so
Cheers.
much tea.
Yeah, I'm drinking a decongestion
Are you
tea.
sick?
Decongestion tea. You're always sick, you. I swear. I think like fucking.
You have
How old are you
the
now again?
immune.
What are you
have
like?
the immune.
35?
34.
Yeah, I feel like 32 of those years you've been congested.
Well, I do live with a cat, and I am very allergic to cats. So.
Hey, you can't blame this on the cat.
I mean, that's a straight up you problem, man. The cat is
I mean,
just the cat is
just-
the innocent party in this.
Yeah, exactly.
The cat is just a bystander.
Ay.
And with that, welcome to Not Quite High Score, the podcast where we three cousins make believe and pretend like we're adults discussing the world of video games, mainly for the pleasure of Deep's brother/girlfriend. And
Dude,
for any of you new people here that are wondering, going yourselves, that sounds like he's talking about the same person. I'm not quite sure. And to that I say, you know what? If you want to know,
Stay tuned.
you got to keep listening, and eventually
I
I
don't
will
want
reveal
this
the
to be
answer.
a fucking ongoing joke every episode.
It has
It will be.
become ongoing. I'm sorry. This is it now.
This is the last time you'll be hosting.
Most of our listeners probably want to know if your girlfriend/boyfriend are two different people. I mean, /brother. Sorry.
You know what they say? Incest is incest.
Hey, man, hydrate or dihydrate is one that I learned recently that I think we should all abide by. My name is Taz. I'm a loving father. How are you guys doing? Good?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games to play and a lot of games coming in the horizon, which is like making me nervous for the games we're currently playing because I'm like, just want to power through them, but lack of time. Adulting.
It's a good problem to have,
yeah,
I'd say.
good problem.
A lot of games, a lot of news. Today's episode, what do we got? We got Discord. That's probably going to become crappy because it's going to be going public, possibly. Ubisoft has protesters that are throwing a revolution. I'm trying to link this to that French Revolution game that they made, and it's not happening for me right now. I'm sorry. Split Fiction is good. Who knew that a good single-player game could sell? And some other stuff. Tariffs, Tony Hawk. We'll get into that as the episode goes on. But first, let me go ahead and introduce these two gentlemen. First off, we have the man that you like to see him go, but you love to watch him walk away with that juicy booty of his. We got Jas. How you
Hi,
doing,
everyone.
buddy?
I'm good, man. I always appreciate your introductions, man. Always make me feel good.
Oh, speaking of feeling good, we got the human tripod himself, Man Deep.
He lives up to his name.
How's
He
it
lives
going,
up
buddy?
to
How's that back been? You know, it's that lower back of yours.
You know, I'm more interested
Constantly
to
carrying
know, how
that
are you
extra
doing,
weight
Taz?
on the front.
I see this week we've got another load of laundry behind you.
Hey, man, that's his life. As I said, I'm a loving father. All right. I just bathed my daughter earlier. All right. I gave her a little bath. She's
So
nice and squeaky clean.
So are you daddy of the group? Is that what we're getting at?
I'm the zaddy of the group. That's what you're saying. Come on now, baby. Get it
zaddy
right.
energy.
Fucking right.
All right.
All right, reel it back in.
Yeah. What are we playing?
Back in. Guys, this is a gaming podcast. Please. All right. Enough jokes about Manny's massive penis. Let the man just live his life. All right. He struggles enough. Let's just not bring it up constantly. All right.
No, so I'm just gonna drink my tea over here.
Every day, this is the back problems.
So, Taz, have you been enjoying Monster Hunter Wilds?
Getting out of bed is called a deadlift. You know.
I heard you got it too. We've been playing.
I did. I jumped onto the bandwagon, man. It's like I told you guys last time. It's the game that I wish I could be into. And then it was my birthday, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just get it, and I'll give it an honest try and really just try to get into it. And holy crap, I'm in, dude.
Nice.
That's what
we like to hear.
It's just I feel like I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not even that this game is necessarily doing a better job of onboarding new players compared to something like World, because there's still just so much that happens, and that you're what's up.
So, small correction, by the way. I hate to interrupt. When I was talking about Monster Hunter Wilds last episode, I need two corrections. One of them is that the previous games did show items on your maps. It's just that like apparently I had filtered it out the entire playthrough for Rise and World, so I never saw those items. And the other games did also make a nod to the training area, but Wilds is the one that really puts a heavier emphasis on you going to try different weapons, which is a bit more beginner friendly. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I put emphasis on us pretending to be adults discussing the world of games. We're all just amateurs. But yeah, as I was saying, it's not. It doesn't do a better job than World. I wouldn't say it does. I wouldn't even say it does a good job of onboarding you as a new player, honestly, because the second you're sort of done a mission, and then there's all this stuff that you picked up, and you don't quite know what to do with it. And even now, I finished the campaign earlier today, and now the first mission in the sort of like post campaign, whatever you want to call it, is I have to capture a monster, and this game is just like, yeah, go capture him. And I'm like, okay, but how? I don't know how to fucking do this.
Yeah.
There's nothing explaining this to me whatsoever. At no point, you know what I mean? Like, I'm all for let the player explore and all that stuff. And, I don't want like dialogue windows every 2 seconds with tutorials and all that, kind of like what people hate about the Ubisoft games and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now I'm fighting this monster, and this is, it's like a 10-15 minute fight, and I have to capture it at the end. I don't know what to do. So I'm essentially wasting my time right now because I also don't have. It's not even that I don't know how. It's that once I figured out how by having to Google it, I also realized I don't have any of the actual items that I need to be able to do this. So this
Mhm.
entire mission they sent me on, it wasn't even like oh, hey, by the way, you maybe want to look into this, and that because you're going to be capturing a monster. It was just straight up, go do this mission. Okay, now capture this monster, and now I'm just fucked. And I kill it, and then I don't even get the parts or anything. I just straight up fail, and then I got to redo it.
So it's funny because like when I did that mission, so I was coming from other Monster Hunter games. I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, I've already got these items in my inventory. I've been using it before they even asked me to use it,
I
and so I
went
was
through
like,
the whole
capture it, try it.
campaign. No, none of these items were ever even
Yeah,
fucking brought up. My Palico at times would set up a shock trap. Fine, maybe that's one of the ways you could trap it. Then you got to trank it. Now that I realize, but even trank bombs, I don't fucking know where to go buy one. I checked
so you
some of the
can't buy
vendors at the
them.
camp.
You have to make them.
Oh, awesome! Again, nothing that was explained to me.
Yep.
But whatever. Honestly, all that stuff, small potatoes. In the grand scheme, this game is just so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know why this one's clicking with me so much more. I think a big reason is the focus mode and just being able to pinpoint those weak spots, and just every now and again you attack that weak spot and you get
It's
that sick
so
animation.
satisfying.
I have the dual blades going, which I think is probably another one of the big reasons I'm enjoying it so much because there's so much mobility to this weapon versus
Mhm.
something like a great sword or gun lance or what have you, that I've done the whole campaign with dual swords, and now I'm trying the gun lance because I'm like, you know what? Let me see what a slower paced weapon is. Because now that I kind of get the gist and the flow of this game, now I can kind of put more time into these other weapons that initially, in let's say the previous games when I tried them very briefly, were frustrating.
Yeah,
So I'm
but
like,
in this
yo,
one, they're a lot more manageable to use, but they also feel a lot more rewarding to use as well because of the whole focus system.
yeah. And the other thing is one thing that I find is cool that they give you is the weapon switching, which
Yeah,
in the middle of a battle you have two loadouts, but I feel like a game is almost a victim of its own optimization because it's
you
sort of
rarely
I
ever need to
rarely
switch.
ever even think of switching weapons. Like
Yeah,
there's no monster that requires you to have two different loadouts. There's no, you know what I
no,
mean? There's no
yeah.
like range phase and close up phase. So
The it's
it's
more
a feature that's cool, but it's a victim of the fact that so far every weapon is just so well optimized and so well put to use that it's I don't know. You know what I
it
mean?
ends
Like
up being
it's
more of a kind of instead of always having to change your loadout to for the fight that's coming up, at least you have two different variety. So in my case, I have the insect glaive, which has blast focus as elemental damage. So that I kind of use that weapon for pretty much any enemy that I'm facing. But then if I notice that I can't land as many hits with the insect glaive, then I have a long sword that's focused on dot damage. So it's constantly applying poison to the enemy. So like those are two very different loadouts that I have. Some people kind of opt for very like slow weapons or like ranged weapons because it kind of gives you like versatile builds. Once again, kind of like focus on like the enemy you're facing. So if you're not having much luck with one, at least you have the opportunity to switch and have a different playthrough all like
Yeah.
experience.
I mean, I don't want to go much further into this. I mean, I think at this point everyone's kind of
Yeah.
heard what there is to hear about this game. You know, it's amazing. It's getting great reviews. Players love it. You know,
Just
some performance issues,
just
but
wait
that
till you
aside,
start collecting crowns, which is so in the game you have like an encyclopedia for all the monsters you've hunted, and there's a crown associated for the smallest, and there's also a crown associated for the largest. And so there's achievements locked behind hunting the smallest and the largest of every monster. And how do you do that? Well, you find a monster in the wild, you use your binoculars, and it'll tell you if it's the smallest or largest. But then the odds of finding one are very low, so I'm constantly just exploring and trying to find those monsters just so I can hunt them.
see, I think I want to put more hours and sort of get deeper in and understand the systems a little more. I don't necessarily think this is a game I'm looking to platinum in any sense. I don't think it's a game that I'll be, going that deep into because at the end of the day, I do have limited time to game, and so,
Yeah.
and even then, like I'm playing this right now, and I've had it since the beginning of the month, and just now I finally rolled credits, and now I'm like 20 hours in. This is how much time I've had to invest into this game, and I could have put more because then in the midst of playing this, I also managed to finish RoboCop Rogue City, which amazing game. Honestly, I was playing it and I was like, "Yo, this is a solid 8 on 10." By the time I was done with it, I was like, "No, you know what? I'm giving this a 9." It's a great
Damn.
representation of RoboCop. It does literally nothing new, but what it
What is
does,
this game? Because I saw you
it's a
update
first-person shooter.
this. Okay, because I saw you update this on Stashed, and I was like, A, I didn't even know you were playing this. B, I've never even heard of this game before.
It's a game based on RoboCop. That's all you
Okay.
need to know. And it does. I'm not like a massive RoboCop fan. I saw the first movie like years ago, but that said, RoboCop's enough in pop culture that you kind of get the idea of
Yeah.
what the vibe is,
Mhm.
and the game does a great job capturing it. It doesn't do anything new. It's not introducing new features of any sort. Nothing's revolutionary, but what it does do, it does very very well. Very cool, very gory, very true to RoboCop fashion, great 80s just jokes and sort of overall vibe. Had a very, very fun time playing
Is
it.
it just like a game based off the movies, or you're just going like through events through the movie?
It's in the
And
universe. It's not based on any of the movies. It's a sort of
okay,
like a side story, I guess, if you will. Honestly, it does not overstay its welcome. I played it for 14 hours, managed to platinum it. That's
wow,
it. And
okay.
there's still side quests and stuff like that you could do, but this game, overall, I mean, I'd be happy to play it over again. I think because that's how
Sometimes you
much of a
just want
good
a
time I
game
had it.
that's short and sweet.
Dude, you walk into a room, honestly, you blow some fucking heads off. You pick up items, you scan around, and it's just, it's a very, very fun, low stakes time.
But does the
Um,
game offer? Does it have like any unique abilities? Do you get upgrades for RoboCop, or is it just
I mean,
straight
yeah,
up?
like you have XP, and then as you sort of pick up things in the world, look up secrets and stuff, you get XP.
Mm,
Then you put those skill points into upgrading things like your armor or your weapon or your damage output, deduction, dialogue, things like that.
yeah.
Uh, you can modify your weapon in some crazy ways. At one point, I had an auto reload thing that just constantly feeds ammo, so I could literally just hold down the trigger and forever fire. And like, it's so fun. It's like it's going back to just sort of, it's like a good ass video game.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not trying to be fucking realistic. It's not trying to be anything more. It knows what it is. It is just a fun arcadey video game, and it is just a good, good, good time. So
Nice.
You know,
that's as much as I have to say on that. But the reason that I bring it up real quick is that I'm playing this in between is because with something like Monster Hunter Wilds, I don't, a hunt is like what? Let's say minimum 10 minutes and you go up to 20, 25. Let's say, right?
Dude, my hunts nowadays are like 3 to 5 minutes.
Whatever. But I mean,
Right.
at
Right.
least if you're trying to progress. And like sometimes I just don't have the time to sit through these fucking cutscenes in between everything, get the mission going, fight that monster, do everything after. And it's just I needed something short and sweet that I can play, so I started playing RoboCop.
Fair enough.
And so Monster Hunter is that. It's a game that I want to play more, but I'm gonna have to play it in bursts. I'm gonna have to pick and choose because I don't always have. Sometimes it's just kids crying. I gotta quickly get out of here. And
yeah, but it
Speaking of games I've never heard of, Mullet Mad Jack Jazz. What is
well,
that?
so actually, I'm very happy that Taz actually brought up Monster Hunter Wild and the time and whatnot because, Taz, you talked about having very little time to play video games, so you'd like to play games that are short. Mullet Mad Jack is that game for the both of you because I started it on Friday evening and I finished it Saturday evening.
Wow. Okay.
I finished the game in under 3 hours, and the best way to describe this game is that it's pure, unfiltered chaos. It's like just picture a high speed action anime mixed in with Hotline Miami, robots, and just all of that chaotic package. And the setup is like super simple. Like it takes place in a like 90s anime inspired retro future. And in this world, you have these robot billionaires that rule the world, and they must feed this super being AI who's going to die unless they keep it alive by feeding it dopamine. And now you're wondering, okay, well, how does it get dopamine? Well, these robot billionaires, they employ humans, people, they call them moderators, and they basically throw these moderators into this kind of like this game show setting, and you have to kill a bunch of robots, and by doing so it kind of feeds that super being AI. All that to say is that obviously your moderator, his name is Jack, he has another motive which I'm not going to go into because I know that Taz wants to play the game and I want to remain spoiler free. But the best way to describe the game is that it's a speed run action FPS. And what that means is that whenever you enter a level, you have 15 seconds to live. You only have 15
Wow.
seconds to
Okay.
live. But what's interesting about it is that the moment you kill an enemy, it gets your time gets added to your clock. It never goes above 15 though. So it's not like you go guns a blazing and all of a sudden you've accumulated like like 2 minutes or something. It's always 15 minutes 15 seconds, and it doesn't stack up. So 15 seconds, the timer goes down, you're at 9, you kill someone, you give, let's say you do a headshot, you get 5 more seconds added to your life. So the game has about, it's kind of like a tower. So it's like a roguelike also in that sense. So you go into the tower, you're in the first level, you shoot up a bunch of, enemies, robots, and once you get to the end of the level, you move on to the second tower. Obviously, you're trying to save someone, a hostage. So it's kind of like Mario, where the princess is in another castle,
Hmm.
sort of thing. They kind of make that joke in the game. Every 10 level you get to a boss, and the bosses are very varied, they're crazy, they're over the top, and again, it's the kind of game where it's just a good ass like fun game. You just shoot a bunch of robots, and even the deaths are like super crazy. So when you pick up, let's say, a knife, you can get close to the enemy and just kind of hit it with a finisher, and you really see like the anime graphics show up of the robot, how you kill it. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore.
And so,
um,
like, are the every level kind of like a time trial thing, or is it just like all? Because you mentioned it's a kind of like a roguelike. So is it like you have a full run, and then if you die, you have to restart from the ground floor?
exactly. So essentially, and I'm not saying like, oh, like I'm so good. I actually never died.
Okay,
So
so you are kind of like tooting your own horn a bit, you know?
no, but yes, it is a roguelike in that sense. And every single time that you finish a level, you gain an upgrade, right? So that upgrade could be like, oh, your enemy bullets land 10 seconds slower, so you can actually dodge, let's say, quicker. You've just unlocked a SMG that's much quieter, or like your mag size is a lot bigger, so you don't have to reload quite as often. And you can also unlock a double jump. So like there's a lot of really really cool things that you can unlock, and every 10 level you can unlock a permanent ability, which is also pretty cool. So like you defeat a boss, well, you get rewarded by having a permanent ability. The whole game, the best way to describe it is it's all about momentum, right? Like you really do want to finish the level as soon as possible, right? Because you have that timer, 15 seconds. But the levels are pretty varied too, and there's like shortcuts that you can take, so the game invites you to play it again. And that's honestly another thing that I really appreciate about the game, because it does have a story mode. But once like kind of finish the game, there is replayability, because there's an endless mode, which is just pure survival, right? You try to last as long as possible and you try to beat your time. And then there's also a boss rush mode, which allows you to go back and beat all of the bosses that you so one at a time, as fast as possible. So it's
Okay.
really made for someone that likes to speed run games, and it's, yeah, to me it feels like a speedrunner's dream. Because again, you can always go back and improve on your time, find new routes, find secrets, and just kind of absolutely destroy. people. But yeah,
You're explaining this game, and I can't help but picture Ghost Runner. Is that kind of like Ghost Runner isn't um,
hmm,
a roguelike in any sense, but
yeah,
like the first person, like fast paced ninja assassin game, is it
I
kind of like
get
in
it.
that same vein?
I get it. Because you talked about Ghost Runner, and I know at one point when you finish a level, you can actually unlock a katana. So now
Oh,
you can kind of go through and slice enemies, right? So
right.
it does remind me of that. But yeah, like I mean, it's a super great game, but I just love the style of it. To me, again, '90s anime inspired, retro feature. Like it's really really cool. And again, the fact I finished it in 3 hours. It is again, it is replayable. I'm not a speedrunner, so I'm not gonna go back and like do the boss rush and the endless mode and whatever. But I know the option is there, if I ever wanted to. So honestly, if you guys are into like cyberpunk anime, just neon silk cities, the enemy design is pretty cool as well, and the bosses are huge and they're over the top. The game just never slows down. So
Sounds like a fun but short time.
yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 9, and the game
Title of
is
my
being
second
well
game.
received. Yeah, the game is being really well received.
Okay.
I mean, testament to Game Pass, right? Because this game came out last year, if not the year before.
I was not aware. I thought it came out just a couple days ago.
No, it's been out maybe on Xbox, but it's been out on Steam for a while. And when
Okay,
it came out, I was like, this game actually looks really, really cool. And it was kind of on my radar. And then eventually I just kind of forgot about it. So now that it dropped on Game Pass, I'll be checking it out. So will a lot of people. And, that's a plus one for Game Pass as always.
Yeah.
+1 for Game Pass
We're
indeed.
like we really love Game Pass here, don't we?
We do.
The
Yeah,
best value in gaming.
Yeah.
sponsor us. Manny, what about you? What are you playing?
Uncle
I'm
Phil,
still
please.
playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I feel like Taz did a good job
Yeah,
at just covering that, so nothing really I need to add. I did pick up Split Fiction day one.
exciting.
I had to. My girlfriend and I loved It Takes Two so much that like when this was announced, we're like we are gonna play it,
Mhm.
and it's so much fucking fun. I don't know how they took It Takes Two and they're like we're just gonna make this game 1,000 times better than what that was, and it's such as gamers, you guys are gonna love all the little Easter eggs, nods to other games, even nods to previous games. At one point, because it's, I feel like I can say it, they make fun of Gladys from Portal. They make fun of the Leap of Faith from Assassin's Creed.
Oh no
I
way.
won't say more than that. And there's like some really questionable. Okay, so how the game works is like you're the two main characters. You guys are going through each other's kind of um, stories that you're presented in this like in this generated world. You're kind of cyber world you're stuck in, and so you're stuck in both a fantasy and a sci-fi story as you're switching between the two. But as you're progressing through each other's stories, there's these pocket adventures you go on, and every pocket adventure is its own unique thing. For instance, at one point we jump into this pocket adventure, pocket side story, and it's like Prince of Persia meets Dune. There's time travel, there's platforming involved, you're riding these sandworms. It's the craziest fucking things.
That's amazing.
And then at one point, we're in this other side story where it's like you're pigs, right? But my pig like moves around by farting rainbows, and my girlfriend's pig stretches like a slinky, right? Doesn't make any fucking sense. But then at one point, you turn into hot dogs, and then what do you have to do? Oh, you have to cook yourself, and then you have to put yourself on a bun, and then you have to put condiments on yourself, and that's how the level ends as someone's eating you.
See,
It's
like
the
I feel like what you're describing is the kind of thing where as you play this game, you can just feel how much love was put into it,
Yeah,
and
100%.
that and this is something that was tailor made. That the first thing in their mind was let's give the players just a really fun experience and not
Mhm.
how do we extract every fucking cent out of these losers.
And I gotta say, the main two protagonists, Mio and Zoe, they're I love the clash of personalities because like Zoe's kind of like the bubbly, loves high fantasy kind of like storyteller, whereas Mio's the more serious, like
Hmm.
world destroying science fiction. And then when you're going from like one adventure where you're like shifting magical beings to like another level where the world is literally ending and the sun's going supernova and you have to like dodge the heat rays as you're progressing through the levels, it's like it constantly puts you like through very interesting levels, kind of like what the first game did, where like every level felt like as a different gameplay style.
Yeah, but like just like the first game in It Takes Two, you get to play as two separate characters, especially
Yes,
when you're playing with someone. So are the characters varied and like are both characters like different gameplay wise?
100%.
Have you got a
Yes.
chance to play with both of them or?
So we've just stuck with the characters we chose at the very beginning,
Mhm.
but the game, the characters feel different enough that I know I'd want to play this again with either my girlfriend or anyone else, just because I want to experience that like second playthrough, like that second character. So one of the levels, like when you're shape shifting, I my Mio can either transform into this tiny aquatic fish like thing, or into a giant ape, right? On the other side, Zoe can either transform into Groot or a
Mhm.
tiny fairy. And because of those like differences in transformation, every character has different sets of abilities as well. And so they kind of have different platforming abilities, different navigation, different fighting abilities. And so it's different enough that you it kind of justifiable to try the other character.
No, that's awesome. I mean, so it definitely adds to the replayability of the game as well. But Taz and I were gonna start playing it tomorrow, so I'm like super excited to
Yeah, I can't
try it
wait,
out.
man.
Yeah.
Honestly, ever since it was announced, like Joseph Ferris, everything that he comes out with, like you can really
Mhm.
you can see the passion whenever he's talking about it, but you can also definitely feel it whenever you're playing games that he produces. And
Mhm.
so, I'm sure this one's no different. And from everything I'm hearing, like I'm really happy it's doing as well as it is, especially considering it seems to be something that's just it's an isolated single player adventure, no microtransactions, not the usual bloat that
Mhm.
gaming kind of tends to come with these days. So overall, I'm looking forward to checking this one out for sure.
And one thing I really love to do, it's like if you're playing with, especially with someone who doesn't game as much as you do, it's interesting to see their kind of reaction to this type of game, especially when
Mhm.
it's a lot. Some levels can be very intensive. So
Are
my
there
girl,
any accessibility things that you've noticed where sort of like you said, if you are playing with someone that isn't necessarily a gamer, like just some sort of features that helps them out to kind of streamline the experience so they're not just jumping off and dying at the same platform over and over, things like that?
it's kind of like the first one. It's like you keep dying, but it's not like you get a game over. It's like it just like puts you back to the
Mhm.
last checkpoint or like the last jump. Even the boss fights, there's like multiple checkpoints throughout a boss fight. So if you do kind of like screw up and die, it doesn't start the entire fight. It
Yeah, it
starts
doesn't
from a
penalize
certain.
you.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
like the
penalize
first
you
game.
much. I gotta say, it's playing this with my girlfriend. I keep pausing the game and writing notes because like just her reaction to things. And so there's like you guys have played It Takes Two. I don't want to tell you what it is exactly, but there's a nod to that game at one point, and I quote, my girlfriend started whining, and she's like, "I hate this game." Because of that reference. And I think once you guys see it and you interact with it, you're gonna be like, "All right, fair."
Okay.
Yeah, but and what's cool about this game is that there's so many random things you'll do, and then you'll start unlocking achievements for it. And so we're playing this, and it gives us more of a reason to like take our time, interact with anything we find, just be like, okay, what else is there? And even the side stories, every side story is so unique that we're like constantly making sure that we don't skip any side stories. And it's hard to miss too because it's a giant ass portal, and so when you walk into it, you step into like a side quest essentially, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys think. It's just such a fun experience, like such a joyful experience. It's weird to have a game bring you this much fun and joy in such a like in a way where like every hour of the game is just different.
You know what? Good time to jump into actually a story related to this. This was going to be later on, but I figure since we're already talking about split fiction, let's just jump into this right away. This has become EA's first 90 plus Metacritic scored game in over a decade
Since Mass Effect 2.
since Mass Effect 2.
That's
That game
kind
came
of
out in, God, what year did Mass Effect 2 come out in again?
I, oh my god. 2010.
Gee, oh my.
2010. Mass Effect fan here. I know.
And I mean, you know, are we surprised? I guess first thing is I guess everyone expected Dragon Age to kind of, or hopefully Dragon Age would have been this for EA, but I mean, Split Fiction. Did we expect this at all?
No, I mean, considering how well It Takes Two did, I think we were all like hoping for a great game, and
You
I
know,
mean,
to
yeah,
me, to me, it just shows that the audience still cares about the quality and not just the branding. Because we like to shit on EA, but EA also make a lot of money on, let's say, all their sports games, right? Like the FC soccer games, the NHL games. Like they always sell like millions and millions every single year. So it's nice to kind of see EA have their first, like, 90 plus game in a very long time. Because to me, I hope that it proves to them again that the audience really just cares about quality,
they
and
don't care
they
about that.
want
Not
you
every
to.
game needs microtransaction. Not every game needs
Exactly,
to be a live service game.
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
I think a big part of this that I a lot of people don't seem to be necessarily talking about is the friend pass.
Mhm.
Yes,
Because this is a strictly co-op game, right? And so the fact that I can not only get one, I just have to buy one copy, and I can invite whoever to play. I can invite whoever to play regardless of where they want to play from with the
Exactly.
crossplay.
And that's the thing. It makes it super accessible. Like they're actually inviting, the game into more homes, right? Because it's like I can buy it on Steam, and Manny and I, we can play it. Like he can play it on his Xbox. Taz can play it on his PS5. Like I like the fact that it's super accessible, and it just puts more eyes onto the product as well,
but
right?
not
I mean,
just
it
And
that. It's
does, and
like
it's just
in an era where we're seeing this less and less. It's nice for a game to actually have couch co-op.
yeah, 100%.
Like the
it's
online feature is
appreciation for the
great.
player.
Yeah,
It's really just appreciation for the player. I find that's just what it shows. And especially now in the live service era where we're nickel and diamond for almost everything, for things that back in the day, unlocking a costume would have just been, you check off a couple of things the game wants you to do and you unlock this sweet costume, and now it's like, all right, well, pay us, buy $20 in shit coins, and maybe then you can get this costume. The fact that now you can play this full ass game with a friend and they don't need to buy a copy, and especially from EA of all places too. But very, I think that's definitely a big part of why this is so successful, and why
Yeah.
another story here regarding this. It's hit 2 million sales after 1 week. 2 million copies this thing has shipped.
or
I,
Pretty insane
I'm not
numbers.
surprised. The It Takes Two
sorry,
did.
not shipped. It has sold 2 million after 1 week, which is insane. Because if you guys remember a few weeks ago, EA was saying that after, what was it, after 3 months or something along those lines, or after whatever, a so-called period of time that's not this short, Dragon Age Veilguard had, quote, engaged 1.5 million. So that wasn't even sales. And that's
Right.
something like Dragon Age,
Yeah.
right? So this speaks to, not only what this game has to offer, but I guess it's the fact that it's a much more accessible, much more, I don't know, I guess family friendly is kind of the wrong term, but I'll throw that out there, versus something like Dragon Age. And it just shows that there's a big craving for games like this, and that there needs to be more of this kind of thing. If you look at the success of this, and then you look at the success of something like Astrobot, which was Game of the Year last year at the Game Awards,
Mm-hmm.
You know,
like this is a whole demographic, it's a whole portion of the market that's sort of, feels like it's been ignored for so long. And now I'm hoping this is one trend that other companies jump on. So
and
yeah.
I think it's also a matter of track record, right? Like, you know, as a developer, I feel like they've kind of earned this. Like they've earned the trust of gamers. It Takes Two, you saw it, the comments that he's made, that we should just make good games, and then with this, I feel like they've definitely earned the trust of gamers, and I'm happy that it's selling well, and you know that they're getting all this success.
But if you also look at some of the games that won awards last year,
Yeah.
it's like Astrobot, Black Myth, Balatro. Like these are not necessarily like big AAA titles.
Hmm.
It's
I mean,
if anything the
Black Myth, I
players
would argue it's AAA adjacent. It might not be like from one of the known
right.
AAA studios, but I think if you play this game, it's not
Mm,
exactly a double A
right.
experience as
But
far as.
the kind of the point I was trying to make, it's like sure certain sports games, COD games might sell well every year, but it's like at the end of the day, if the players will vote like what they want with their wallets, and clearly it's they're craving for games like this. It's
Hmm.
games that are just not constantly trying to make you spend more money as you're playing. It's games that offer a complete experience from start to finish without having to pay any additional fees, and it's just for the gamer.
And just sort of low stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a sweaty game. It's just something that I can play with a family member, play with a friend on my own. However, that's just not super difficult to get into, and it's a good time, and it harkens back to the sort of the older days of video games when they weren't just these overcomplicated, bloated things that if it's on microtransactions, then it's just feature upon feature, system upon system, and after a while, you're just like, okay, like, I just want to play this game. I don't want to have to learn like a million different things and invest all this time and look up guides and look up like how to min max my way through. So I'm happy that this exists. I'm happy that it's doing well, and I hope that this is a direction that a lot of other studios kind of go towards in the future.
Do you know?
Speaking
Do you
of,
know?
sorry, go
I
on.
was I was gonna say, do you know what you're gonna have to learn, Taz?
What am I gonna have to learn, Jaspinder?
Discord possibly going public.
That was a weird,
That
that
was
was a
a
weird
questionable transition.
transition,
Yeah,
but
not your best, Jazz. Not your best.
yeah, you know what? I'll
I
take
was,
it. That's okay. I'll give it to you, man. I mean, after all, it's not your brains. We love you for it. It's that booty. But anyways, yeah,
I
Discord.
tried, man. I tried.
Discord's leadership has met with some investment bankers over the last few weeks. Possibly might go public as early as this year. There's a term for things like this where something really good eventually just becomes crap, and this is it. There's actually is a term. It's called the inshittening, and this is it. I think
The
we should all
inshittening.
the inshittening when a product or a service is very good, and then it just eventually kind of reaches like a certain peak, and then it just goes to being crap. It happens with everything. I mean, Facebook when it came out was great. Then eventually it went public, and now it's just a garbage platform for a bunch of racists
Hmm.
and Nazis, and
It's gonna happen to this
people that want to
podcast too, or
sell.
we've
People that want to
already
sell. Hey man,
destroyed.
look, you pay me the price, I'll sell out. Hell yeah. I'm a father now. I have to think of my child.
But honestly, if you look at companies that have gone public, if you look at the track record, it's not looking good because
Of course
you
not.
know the biggest
Because
concern, like when a company does go public, is that they have shareholders to please. So shareholders, they don't care about the user experience, they only care about the money, right? So to me, like right away, there's a risk that Discord's focus shifts from being a great platform for communities and shifting it to just kind of maximizing profit. And
that
that
is
to me is
literally exactly what's going to happen.
scary.
Let's not pretend
Yeah.
like it'll be. Let's not pretend like they're going public so they can serve us better as a gaming community or what have you. This is
Yeah.
just there's money to be made, and they're going to go make it. And what's going to
But
happen?
it's also a question of how much of their company is going public. Because, like, yeah, it's people can buy shares, but that doesn't mean that people can own a majority of it. It's because we don't know what it's going to look like. They're still planning their IPO, so it could,
The
uh,
second they go public
yeah.
and their shareholders involved, even if they still keep majority shares, whatever.
Hmm.
The point of Discord at that point doesn't become all right, how do we improve this service? What else can we add to it to make it great? Then it becomes how do I make the line go from this to the top and to the right even more for our investors? That's all they give a
And
shit about.
So what are we expecting here to happen?
so I think that a
Monetization up
realist,
the ass. What else is
but
going to happen? I mean, realistically, if it's on monetization up the ass, it's going to be ads. You can go from how things are now, where you can join an unlimited amount of servers, to potentially they're going to limit how many servers you're capable of joining. It could be something like, oh, hey, you're about to join this server. Cool. Listen to this 30-second ad real quick before we let you join. It's going to they're going to basically make it that they're going to make the free experience frustrating enough that they're going to make people want to pay to just not have to deal with that shit. Because at the end of the day, at the moment, there is no better alternative.
Now, what are we going to go back to TeamSpeak?
Yeah.
well,
That's just
I
it. So
think
now I'm hoping someone else will come up and then they'll make another version, similar to Discord. And then we'll repeat that cycle. And then, 10 years, that'll go public and maybe something else will come out. But that said, this is what it is. They're gonna make the free experience frustrating enough that they're gonna make you either simply deal with it because you don't want to pay, or for a lot of people, give us even whatever, a few bucks a month, and you don't have to deal with ads because
Yeah,
that's what everything
because
is these days.
if you answer the question like what realistic change, we could expect, Taz is right? Like, I mean, to me, it makes sense that Discord being mostly ad free right now, if they do shift into like a public company, we're gonna start seeing ads in our in our servers, right? So I don't know, like
I
if
don't
you scroll through your gaming chat, like you might see like sponsored messages between chats.
I don't
But to
know if
me,
that's feasible to introduce. Because
why?
okay, I get it. It's almost okay. You guys are almost like
Never underestimate what a company is willing to try.
no, I get that, but it's you guys are almost like apocalypse viewing this situation.
But it's I'm not seeing it as no, but I'm saying what's realistic and what's not realistic about having ads
I
like
don't know how
in
that would
chats.
work in a chat service like Discord for them to introduce ads. I think further, like kind of how Nitro works right now, where it's like they've put limitations on servers, where it's like if you want to do more soundboards, if you want to be able to share high res images or stream at a certain content, it's like you have to buy Nitro, which is relatively reasonable price at the moment. But it's like I don't see it going past that. It's like
Okay.
they could,
Well, if it's not ads, which it
right?
will be, in some way they will have ads. I fucking promise you, somewhere on this service, in that interface, somehow there will be ad integration. That is going to happen. But it doesn't have to stop there. At the moment, is there, let's say, what's the limit of how many users can be on one server?
There's no limit.
Okay, there will be one. It's going to happen. They'll tell you, all right, you know what? You can limit tier one, 25 users or some stupid thing like that. Could be more, whatever. Point is, there will be a limit. And
Hmm.
then everything else, everything that we have that's, unlimited in a sense, that's great on Discord, they will find a way to limit that to paywall and then extract a couple bucks out of you if you want to have, the Discord of old of sorts. Because again, there is literally no other. Name one other service you're willing to use aside Discord. Like, what are we gonna go back to the days of MSN Messenger?
I
Look,
I don't I don't maybe I'm more optimistic about this. I don't see it in a way there where it'll be derivative. I think it's just going to be new features, new content, um new advancement in Discord, sure, or updates, which will be limited with maybe a subscription model. That seems more feasible. Because the moment they start introducing limits to service, or they're well created, who have well established communities, I should say, there's gonna be pushback from the Discord communities.
Of course, but at the end of the day, the pushback is temporary. What they're gonna do is
yeah,
that it's the same as a lot of companies do with, let's say, microtransactions or the models for games. They're gonna initially push whatever they want to be able to get away with, that they think they can, but in reality, they know there's going to be pushback. And when that pushback comes, then they, out of goodwill, they reevaluate and they reduce whatever it is that they're asking. But in the end, that's what they would have wanted anyways. It's like when you're it's like when you're selling something on Facebook Marketplace. If you want 25 bucks for it, you're going to list it at 30 because you know they're going to haggle you and you're going to have to bring it down to 25 at that point, regardless. Same thing. And yeah, you
Okay,
know what? It's a shitty point of view. It is a negative. It's not, optimistic at all, but really look at the state of every company, look at the state of gaming altogether in terms of even just how many layoffs and shit and the way companies are operating these days, and tell me that there's a reason to look at this with any sort of possibility, like a positivity.
yeah, but Discord isn't just remotely just gamers. There's communities outside of that, and
Which is even
so
more reason for them to monetize. If it's not just gamers, if there's multiple types of communities, if this was isolated to just gamers, that'd be one thing. But if you're telling me that it's not just gamers, but it's like, whatever, movie lovers and, media lovers of all kinds, or just servers for people that, work together, it's a company thing or what, just different types of communities. I mean, that's all the more reason for them to monetize, because then that's just, they have, I mean, what, last I checked, the user base for Discord was like 200 million people.
right.
You know,
Bes- I
they're
think
I'm
gonna find
removing
a way to make a ton of fucking money out of that. They
I'm
will.
okay.
I'm I'm interested to having this conversation a year from now just to see what actually ends up happening. Because we all we can really do is just speculate.
Also, yeah, and removing the ads out of the equation, because again, I know we spoke a lot about ads, but Discord already makes money with Nitro, right? So
Yes.
to me, realistically, if that's the question, if they go public, I expect them to make Nitro a bigger deal. So like I think that they might even add like more exclusive features that's going to be locked behind Nitro, or even introduce multiple Nitro tiers, like a Super Nitro or something like that. To me, that seems to be the more realistic thing that we could see
Yeah.
initially. So I see it more as like I'm not, like on one side or something, but it means more like I don't think it's immediately going to ruin the Discord experience, but I think rather it's going to shift how we use it, right? Like because for now, like Discord, we hop on when we play video games and when we chat, but maybe people use Discord for other things, like as Manny said, right? Like it's not
Because
just for
like
gaming. So I think realistically, like I mean, if you ask me the question, I wouldn't pay for an ad-free Discord. Like I would just live with it, or we just shift to other services. I believe there's like something called Matrix, and I think there's one that's called Gilded or something like that.
so that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to make, where it's like if you look at the OG Discord before it had Nitro, a
Yeah,
lot of the features that Nitro introduced were features that they added over time, and those are features that are, most of them were locked behind Nitro. I kind of imagine the same thing, where it's like a lot of servers utilize different types of bots to kind of um, improve the overall functionality of a Discord. And so
yeah.
I can imagine them like instead of having third party bots, is that Discord would incorporate a lot of those features within their own software. So therefore, those things could be locked behind a Nitro, or maybe they'll have like a server specific Nitro where like the
Mm.
owners could buy it, for example.
I mean, look, I'm not saying they're going to go public and then within 24 hours this service is unusable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be slow, and and I see it happening obviously over the course of whatever years, let's say.
I
But
mean,
that said, look, just prove me wrong, please,
yeah, the
Discord.
reason I'm a bit more hopeful is because Discord does tend to do things a bit differently. Because
It doesn't
they're
matter. Once they're public, they don't serve us. They serve the capitalist masters that invest in the company. There's literally once you're public, it is your legal fucking duty as a company to make your investors money.
Speaking of making your investors money,
Oh, that's a good
uh,
segue.
See, learn from this guy, Jess.
Ubisoft is not doing that. Actually,
Yeah.
there's a group of shareholders, um, investors in Ubisoft. They're kind of attempting a protest outside of their Paris headquarters. They're accusing Ubisoft for failing to disclose potential. Acquisitions by Microsoft, EA, and other publishers who were interested in some of their franchises. And so,
Man, if
yeah,
I can say,
that's a cluster
to
of a
me,
mess.
the protest isn't just about transparency. To me, I see it as being a part of a much bigger issue where Ubisoft has seriously been mismanaged for years, and to investors are fed up. It's crazy that it's the shareholders that are out there protesting, in
They
their Paris
they
office.
they just won from their statement. They want a clear roadmap for recovery,
Yeah.
especially in the last few years. We've seen Ubisoft on decline with things like game cancellations, layoffs, the games just not doing well in general, and also like and it's being reflected in the share price for Ubisoft. And so I think it's well kind of founded that the fear and the concerns that shareholders have, because you're looking at this and they're like, what's going on? Who's actually leading this? And
Won't someone please think of the shareholders, guys?
You know,
They're not. They're
I
not. They're not. They're not able to squeeze the optimum amount of money
in
from
this
players.
case,
I get it. I
yeah,
know.
in this
In
case,
my, I'm
it
just always
reflects from
like,
the
fuck
gamer's
these people,
perspective.
but I
look,
get it. And
Yeah.
if
It's one of the few times where kind of like gamers are kind of agreeing with the shareholders, because it's like the shareholders want the company to improve, gamers want the company to improve, because everyone's going to be happy at the end of the day.
yeah,
I have to say though, like Assassin's Creed Shadow, like to me, Shadows is really their last chance to prove that they can make a hit. That's how I see it, right? Like
in any other
they
world,
desperately need a win.
yep.
Sorry, I'll let you finish, but they desperately need a win, And to me, like Shadows is their biggest hope. And if it flops or even underperforms, this could be like the final push for Ubisoft to sell like their biggest franchises or change their leadership entirely. I cannot imagine any other scenario. If this game flops, one of two things are going to happen. Either leadership goes away or they sell off their franchises.
Well,
I just
leadership's not going away because I'm pretty sure that the Gimos have a controlling stake in the company, and
oh
even
my
if, and
god.
I know that there's been reports that they've been wanting to sell the Tencent or have a partnership of sorts with Tencent, but one of the conditions of that partnership would be that the Gimos retain control over the company. So in the end, I don't, unless Gimo drops dead of a fucking heart attack, they remain.
That control that that family wants on Ubisoft properties is also why Tencent is now reluctant to move forward with the potential
Well, yeah.
rumored
Why
acquisition.
would I go into a deal with you and leave you in control when you're the one that basically crashed and burned everything in the first place? If this was, and this is what I was about to say earlier. If this was any other sort of gaming world, so to speak, it would be like every other company where Shadows comes out, and if Shadows doesn't perform, Ubisoft just gets fucking shut down. Like that's how it would work, right? Because that's what these gaming companies do.
You
But
know,
in
They're
this
like
sitting
case,
they're sitting on such marvelous franchises, and but they're doing not only are they doing nothing with it, the whenever they do to release something, it's just absolute garbage.
it's not garbage, but it's just not doing anything extraordinary.
When's the last time you saw a Splinter Cell game?
Look, man, why do you gotta go after my heart with that fucking? Why do you gotta
Do we
just
dare
go,
talk? Okay,
go, twist the knife in my side? No, I
but
mean, of course, but why? To me, and again, this is my pessimistic point of view. The reason we're not seeing a Splinter Cell is because it's a single player game. It's a AAA thing, and they're not going to develop that if it's not something that's going to continuously bring in revenue. That's
Assassin's
just
Creed is a AAA single player game.
and they have
y-
microtransactions within the game. They have continuous DLC, and at the end of the day, there's more cachet for Assassin's Creed, unfortunately, than there is for Splinter Cell because stealth games on a whole just don't do as well anymore. Unfortunately,
Then
I
is
just
that the same
fucking
reason
the
why
fucking
Prince of
TikTok
Persia?
generation can't deal with stealth. They can't.
okay,
Everything has to be now, 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 now. If you
if
fucking
we if we shift the conversation to the upcoming game and why that game is so critical, let's not forget though that I think the reason why they're still making these full-scale single-player Assassin's Creed games is if you look at the success of the last game, Valhalla made over $1 billion in revenue. It proves that the franchise still has legs, that the franchise still has power, right? To me, at least, that's how I see it. Mirage came out last year, but that was more of a throwback than like a big blockbuster release, right? So that's why I don't really count that. It's set in feudal Japan. It's a setting that fans have been begging for since forever. So I also understand that expectations are through the roof. But
Yeah, but
that
let's
that
not
is why
pretend like Shadows didn't have his share of like controversies with its
100
original. Like,
100%. And that's
yeah,
why I'm saying that's why this game is so critical. Like I know that we're talking about, like the future of it, but if this game does not do well, then we need to start asking ourselves, okay, if Ubisoft was to break apart from, the Splinter Cells of the world, the Watchdogs and whatever, which publisher could take over their IP? Do you guys have any idea? So if, for example, Manny mentioned Splinter Cell, I think that Microsoft could take Splinter Cell.
yeah.
Like if there's anyone that can bring back Splinter Cell, it's Microsoft. They already own studios like Arcane, right? They made Dishonored. The focus on stealth, and I just think that'll be a perfect fit.
just
And
please don't give it to Kojima.
Can we get Rocksteady to work on Watch Dogs?
oh, Rocksteady.
Rocksteady for Watch Dogs.
Wait, what game has Rocksteady made again? Why am I blanking?
GTA.
Arkham.
No, that's Rockstar.
Oh crap! That's what I meant.
They're not gonna make the Rockstar. Rockstar is
Why
gonna.
Rockstar. Why
not?
the hell would Why would Rockstar even touch Watch Dogs? They have GTA. They don't need Watch Dogs.
Yeah,
Rocksteady. Okay. I mean, they could technically do well with Watch Dogs also.
Honestly, take Ghost Recon and Far Cry, give it to Activision. Why not? I mean, give them something a little
Dude,
different from
Yeah.
Call of Duty
I, I was just about to
adjacent.
say, a Far Cry. Yeah, yeah. Like if they can take over Far Cry, like they, again, I think that Far Cry would like thrive in this open world chaos, like setting that they kind of build. So yeah, like I think that that could be amazing. And
Give Rayman to Nintendo.
I was
that's a
gonna
joke.
say give it to Hazelight.
I was gonna say to
Oh.
give it like to an indie studio or something like that. Like I feel like Nintendo would
But
just
here's
be
a
like,
sad
why would
thing,
we
right?
want it?
Here's a sad thing, right? I'm looking at Prince of Persia right now, and I'm like, what studio could they give it to? But in the end, they did such a fucking good job with Lost Crown, and
Yeah,
yet
but that studio
they,
doesn't exist anymore.
yeah, exactly. But that game, it didn't sell the whatever many copies they wanted, and within what, like the first 3 months of that game even being out, they'd already shuttered the studio. Like these people are just,
What
they're
if you
they're capable of good things. The leadership is just shit for brains.
Let me ask you this. If there was a sequel to Prince of Persia, sorry, there was another Prince of Persia, would you want it to be another Metroidvania, or would you want it to go back to its kind of platform roots?
Ooh,
I mean, considering we've gotten a Metroidvania, I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind one that kind of goes back a little bit and towards the Sands of Time ish nature
I
and
would
how that
love
was.
that.
I'm blanking out. Who worked on God of War Ragnarok?
Sony.
Santa Monica Studio.
Yeah.
Would it be crazy to have Santa Monica work on a Prince of Persia game?
I mean, I don't need another God of War.
It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be like God of War.
You know what? Give it to Naughty Dog. Make it a PlayStation exclusive, whatever. I don't fucking care anymore. Give it to Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog making Prince of Persia.
I don't see that.
Why not?
I don't know. Maybe because I'm sold on the idea for Santa Monica's.
Because I mean, look, they've made Uncharted.
Right.
They have, Misery Simulator 2026, aka Last of Us.
Manny,
And if you look at their history, they're capable of cool stuff. They've done the Crash Bandicoot games. Like they have that history to them. Prince of Persia, I don't necessarily want it to be Last of Us or Uncharted,
But it doesn't
but
have to be.
but
Like just because
knowing
it's that
knowing what
studio's
they're
making it.
capable of, I think
That's
they
yeah.
could do something interesting with it. Or
Well,
even
that's why I was like considering Santa Monica because they took an IP like God of War and then changed it completely into this
but that's the thing.
brand new franchise.
You
It
know what?
sounds too perfect.
I just thought of something
I
too.
want it right now.
I just thought of something too. Give Watch Dogs to Insomniac.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I could see that.
They're good with open world. I mean, Spider-Man aside, they did make the infamous games. So I think they could do something really cool with Watch Dogs.
hmm
Wishful thinking, guys. It's still going to be
I mean,
Ubisoft,
obviously,
and
we're just
they're
wasting time talking about this because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's fucking Ubisoft. And honestly, going back to whether Shadows is going to do well or not, I think it'll do well. It's not gonna do as well as they needed to or wanted to.
Are you guys not worried with all the last minute changes they had to do to the campaign? Because like whenever we've seen a game have this many changes at the last minute, especially when it comes to the story, it's never really looked good
I
as a
mean,
final
look,
yeah.
product.
I think it is a good thing, but I'm not worried because I didn't necessarily care enough to worry in the first place.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
game is just I'm likely gonna play it. I'm expecting a good experience, but I'm not expecting enough people to look into it and buy it and like it enough for it to be what Ubisoft needs this game to be at this moment.
I
And even the fact that it's feudal Japan, you know what? Ghost of Tsushima, amazing game, very stealthy too, and that game did it real well. And I don't see anything in this game so far that from what I've seen beating Ghost of Tsushima and the fact that Ghost of Yote is coming out. So, at this
no
point
chance.
that setting's been done. And there's another game as well it's set in Japan that I'm kind of blanking on right
Rise of
now.
Ronin.
I mean, there's that, and there was one more that maybe it'll come
Oh,
back
okay.
to me. But anyways, that setting has sort of, that ship has sailed. If you wanted to make this game in Japan and you wanted it to be like that experience, the one that everyone's been asking for years and years, because Assassin's Creed being an assassin in Japan, it was like a natural sort of
Right.
fusion. It would have been years ago,
Yeah.
you know? And right now, especially Valhalla, man, like, yeah, I guess, it made them $1 billion in revenue, but that game is like 800 fucking hours long, dude. That game is
Never finished it.
it's a generational game in the sense that you start this save and your future generations will finish the fucking story.
I mean, but you play games like Persona and like what's that last one that came out
This
late?
game is longer than Persona. If you want to complete stuff, you're looking at like at least 100 hours. Persona is, and you know what? Yeah, fine. Persona is long and it could be 100 hours,
It is 100
but
hours.
it is so much more quality and it's not the
It is.
bloat that Valhalla is.
Yeah.
With Valhalla, they give you so much to do, and for the people that want to do everything, they're the ones that are suffering. Because it's not even like it's quality content. It's just sort of the same shit strewn into like 800 different spots across the map, you
Mhm.
know? And that's what's giving it the fact that bloat and that giant ass runtime. Whereas with Persona, it's not like it's extra side shit, it's the story mode and it's all that day-to-day stuff that
Right. No,
kind
but
of
I meant
brings
that
everything
if you're
right
just
back
talking
to the
about like
story.
hours alone of
No, I'm not.
gameplay.
That's the thing is, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about hours alone. It's just, it is what it is with these games.
Hmm.
Look, at the end
And
of the day, we're gamers. We love games, and I hope that Assassin's Creed Shadows can
So,
deliver on all fronts.
just a final question for you guys: do we think that if Tencent does proceed with the acquisition of Ubisoft, do we view it as a positive thing or a negative thing, or we don't know what to expect?
I don't think I
I
know what to expect. I'm not sure I'm crazy about Tencent owning anything either. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, I think the problem is leadership, and I think that even if Tencent takes it, if the Guillemots are still in charge and they're the ones making the big decisions, then I think it's not really going to fix anything.
and doesn't Tencent like microtransactions? Like, don't they have microtransactions in like a lot of their games?
Maybe, but the microtransactions aren't the problem.
Yeah, it's more so just
It's the overall experience, and it's
exactly.
the
I don't.
overall game.
Then I don't think it's going to change
I mean, look
then.
at Outlaws. That game, like,
Well, so assuming that
it's
Tencent proceeds with the acquisition, but the Guillemot's family does not
Oh,
retain much
then I'd be interested to see what happens.
say.
I'm still not super hopeful, but at that point, I would definitely be more interested in the future of these franchises than if
Yeah.
Ubisoft retains them. Because I think right now Ubisoft, it's also a massive company. It's studios around the world. There's thousands upon thousands of employees. Like this is the one time where I'm kind of like, guys, you need to fucking rein it in a little bit. I'm not saying lay people off, but I'm saying, you know, you guys need to kind of really pick and choose your projects right now, and everything doesn't have to be, quadruple A,
Oh, but
right?
their solution to laying off seems to be the best solution for in the
Taz,
gaming industry.
Taz, come on! If Tencent, takes over, you can finally play that Assassin's Creed game in China. Watch Dogs in China.
Watch Dogs, CCP.
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure how it's gonna.
I'm not gonna broach that.
Yeah,
Speaking
exactly.
speaking of China, so apparently with the new tariffs that the U.S. is introducing, they're kind of imposing on Mexico, China, and Canada. There's a conversation about whether or not we can see these. I hope my segue was good, by the way. That we can see these kind of prices reflected on physical releases of media, and then whether or not that's going to affect supply shortages. Especially for new consoles coming up like the Switch 2. Um, so, guys, is it time to give up on physical media?
I mean,
I'm
I
saying that.
haven't bought a physical game in years. So, on one hand, this doesn't really affect me anyways. On the other hand, it'll end up biting me in the ass because if the physical media does go up, then for the sake of maintaining price parity, digital probably will go up anyways. And let's face it, game companies are looking to increase that overall base price to
It's
begin
such
with.
a dumb concept where, sure, physical is going to cost more to make, but let's just have that reflected on a digital price as well.
But
Dude,
remember,
they
these
they
tariffs are
slap.
American, right? So it's
Yeah.
the U.S. So technically speaking, if we were to import it directly, let's say from, because a lot of the from what I'm seeing and from what I've read, a lot of physical media is printed in Mexico.
Right.
So that's where these physical copies come from. So if we could bypass the states and just get it done sent to us directly and not have to pay and then technically it would be cheaper here than it would be in the states, but obviously that's not ever going to happen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But then it's also a question of, well, so if the distributor where they're getting their game is from the States and they're shipping it to Canada, then I think we're still affected by the tariffs.
Yeah.
It's a messy situation
You know what would
overall.
be a really good idea for them to do? Lower, like if they really want people to stop the physical media, like get off the physical media bandwagon, lower the price for digital just long enough where people are going to be like, you know what, if I save $20, I'll get it digitally. Have a bigger shift than we currently have of people like stepping away from physical and going to digital only,
There's
and then
such
just
a
stop.
whole other discussion to be had
Yeah.
regarding that, though, man.
Yeah.
Because because yeah, you could do that, and at the end of the day, a lot of people right now are sort of looking past physical and going fully digital. But then you also get into the discussion of game preservation, right?
Yes.
Because then once you have a digital copy, you don't own the game; you just own a license to play that game.
What
And
happens if
at
the server
any
shut down?
That's it. Server shut down. Just you know, at any point that game could just stop working. It's gone on Steam. It's not on sale anymore. You can't. You can no longer find a copy. You can't play it. And even for the physical copies these days, many a time you buy a disc and it's basically still going to download the game off of like PSN or Xbox. So that's just it's a sad reality, and I don't quite know what gaming is going to look like in even like 5 years in terms
At
of
the,
whether not only what pricing is going to look
yeah.
like, but what's ownership going to look like.
At least, and this is not like, I don't know. It's if there's the one good thing to come out of this, at least Nintendo still publishes physical media in
Hmm.
bulk, and then it's like their games don't require discs that kind of get scratched up super easily. It's like it's in a cartridge, and so there's a good reusability there. And as a physical collector, thank God I'm not just collecting Nintendo games. Like I'd be sweating if I was like trying to collect like Sony or fucking Xbox games or anything like that.
The other thing I was going to say is that I think between the three of us, we have such a huge backlog of games to play that I don't even like. I can't even imagine what game I'm going to buy like day one full price because I have such a backlog. So by the time that I get to the game that I want to play, it's probably going to go on sale, right? Like Assassin's Creed Shadows, like I'm going to play it because I still have a subscription. Very nice. I still have a subscription of for Ubisoft Plus, so I figured, okay, well, since I have the subscription, I already paid for it, might as well play it. But the backlog is getting much just bigger by the day. That I'm just gonna wait for the games to go on sale anyways, or find like a CD key cheap online or something. So it doesn't really change much. And honestly, like the first thing that I do whenever I want to look for a game to play, I open up Game Pass and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, what's my next game?
Yeah. I
So
do kind of miss the days where like, well, I mean, we still kind of do it now with like Steam family sharing, but it's like I miss the days where it's like I could buy a game of a copy and I can just lend it to you and just be like,
yeah,
I'm done with it now. You can play it. But
Dude,
it's
there's so
like,
there's so much I miss about old ways of gaming.
do you guys remember those
You know,
booklets in the game cases where
of
you like
course,
read
oh
that on the
yeah,
way home?
or even renting a game, dude. The act of just going into a video store and spending like an hour staring at the same selection of games, just trying to figure out what it is that you're going to take home because it's a make or break.
Mm-hmm.
Once you rent it, you can't just bring it back and be like, you know what, this sucks. Can I grab another one? Nope, you're stuck with that for the next like 2 days or whatever, and you got to play that game.
And can I say actually, because Manny, you mentioned like the instruction booklet
Mm-hmm.
in Mullet Magic, you can actually go in the option settings, and they have a digital like booklet of the game, and they
Oh
kind of
my
make
god.
fun of like the back in the day and everything like
Yeah.
that. It's really really well done. Like you
That's
see the
cute. Honestly,
CD
I
and
feel
stuff
like
like that.
more games should kind of have that feature.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Or like
Because I know.
you would buy a copy of like GTA and it would come with a giant fold out map of the city.
Mm.
And now you only get that if you're paying $300 for the collector's edition. You're like,
Uh,
oh my god, you guys just really found a way to nickel and dime and ruin my childhood in every conceivable way.
But you know what's not ruining your childhood right now?
Is it the fact
oh,
that Tony Hawk 3 and 4 are confirmed?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
read my
Taz talked
mind.
about it last episode, and he willed it into existence.
Jesus.
My
All right,
God.
moving on to the next
You
topic.
know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna forget you did this, and I'm gonna be editing it, and it's probably gonna scare the shit out of me at one point.
It's okay. It's a jump scare.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Thank you, Jaspinder. I can always count on that ass. I'm telling you, man. Ugh.
All right.
All right.
But no, it's coming out. That's it. It's revealed. It's great. One thing that is kind of worrying some players that none of you guys really, you guys have never really played the Tony Hawk games, right? As far as I'm aware, this is basically just a
I
very much a
played.
me thing.
I
But
played them in association. I mean, I played them because you
real,
played.
Yeah.
real quick, Tony Hawk's 1 to 3, when you're playing through, I guess, the campaign, if you want to call it, it's basically every level you have 2 minutes, you have a list of goals, and every run you do is 2 minutes long, and you complete as many of those goals as you can. And then subsequently, you keep doing 2 minute runs over and over until all those goals are complete. Tony Hawk 4 was the first one to break out of that formula. So then at that point, it was a little bit more of an open level. So you run around, well, you skate
Mm.
around, talk to people, and you kind of do the goals at your leisure. So that was really cool. However, they have said that in this game, they're retooling Tony Hawk 4 to also have that 2 minute timer for goals in that, which has a lot of people in two camps where they're either A, worried about how this is going to go down, or B, just straight up pissed off. Um, I'm more in the worried camp because in the end, I'm not going to complain because I didn't think this would ever happen in the first place with getting this remake. So I'm happy that we're getting it. Admittedly, I'm worried because due to the nature of how Tony Hawk 4 worked and the fact that it's a bit more of an open level and it's at your leisure, the levels were also a lot larger. So now if you're telling me that it's a bigger level, but I still have that 2 minute limit to try and, do runs over and over and over to get those objectives, which a lot of the times, you're spending 2 minutes sometimes looking for one out of like for you're looking for like one of the objectives, let's say, is to you have to gather the letters skate, skate, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it'll take me 2 minutes to locate one of those letters
Yeah,
in standard Tony Hawk, let alone Tony Hawk 4. So depending on, and it's not like I remember a lot of the goals or anything. I played that game when it came out. I played that campaign one time, and then that's it. So I remember bits and pieces of levels, but that said, I am worried about how that's going to work. But we'll see. And if anything, people, you're not. It's a Game Pass game, so if you have Game Pass, you don't have to necessarily go out and purchase it. I might get it
Mhm.
anyways, just because I want to own it,
Did you
quote
see the
unquote,
physical
license.
collector's edition version of it?
The one that comes with the deck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It's pretty sick.
Honestly, it's really cool, but none of these collector's editions are ever like for PC, so there's literally no reason for me to get them because I'm gonna get a code for a game that I can't play.
Right.
So if any companies out there are listening, two things. First off, if you're releasing a collector's edition, please also think of the PC gamers that want that physical, the goodies. And second, Deep's brother and girlfriend are actually two separate people.
I'm
I
glad
was gonna
you finally solved that mystery.
before we do move on to the next one. I was gonna say, Taz, if they do put that 2 minute timer, I do think that's a very counterintuitive thing for them to do. So hopefully that's not
I mean,
the
again,
road that they're
beggars
gonna
can't be
go at.
choosers, right? We never thought we'd get this because we got Tony Hawk Remake 1 and 2, and then afterwards
Yeah.
that studio got dissolved and everyone got thrown into the Call of Duty mines. And so, we didn't expect this to happen. So the fact that this is happening, and not only is
Mhm.
this happening, but this could mean that there's maybe other projects down the pipeline, maybe a whole new Tony Hawk game that, for the first time in years won't be some gimmicky thing that really sucks and it'll just be like a straight up good Tony Hawk game. This is the one thing where I'm optimistic for it. If it's a 2 minute timer, whatever, I'll deal with it because at the end of the day, you finish that campaign once and then you're just going online, you're skating around with buddies, you're building parks. So it's a small portion of the game. So whatever, small pain point. And
Yeah.
once again,
And
beggars can't be choosers.
just a childhood memory. We never, my brother and I never owned the copy of Tony Hawk, but we used to come over to your guys' place and play the shit out of it.
I remember playing.
Um,
Yeah.
but the one game we had instead of Tony Hawk was like, I think maybe it was just a demo. Like, you guys remember this skating game on the Xbox?
Skate.
Skate.
I don't think it was skate. It was like rollerblading. Sorry.
Oh, aggressive inline.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that demo. I played the shit out of that demo. I actually bought that game from EB Games used one day when it was like super cheap, and then I was like, okay, this hasn't aged very well. But the Tony Hawk
Yeah.
games though, still
Oh,
good,
yeah.
man. I've actually been playing Tony Hawk 3 again on PS2, and oh man, it holds up. It holds up so good.
You're like preparing yourself for 1, 3, and 4. Do we have a release date for 3 and 4?
Yes, I forget when it is. I think it's June or July.
Okay, this summer.
Let me look it up, just so that Manu or your girlfriend can have a
When the game comes out, we should probably have a bit of.
July 11th.
Okay. When the game comes out, we should probably have like a little competition between the three of us and a little short
Yeah, if
video.
it's on Game Pass, we should all one of our game nights. We should just
Yeah, one
play
night.
online. We don't have to play
Yeah.
anything competitive. We just skate around, man. It is
Mhm.
so fun, and it's an arcade skating game, so it's not like you have to worry about like the physics of shit. You're fucking grinding power lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's fun.
You know,
It's a good old fashioned video game is what it
Yeah.
is.
you know what we do have to worry about? Pokemon
Is
Go and the
it-
rest of Niantic games is currently being sold to Scopely.
Okay, can I
Go
actually?
for it.
I don't think that any of you guys still play Pokemon Go. I still play it.
You
I don't
do.
know why I still play it, but
I,
to me-
in my defense, I do get hooked into a raid every once in a while by my coworkers. But go on.
yeah, look, Pokemon Go. First of all, Pokemon just a name. Like it just makes some crazy money, right? And I don't think anything is going to change from this, but I can already see the decline of Pokemon Go even before Scopely came in and bought, you know, Niantic's like business. So to me, it's just going to be it's just going to be like more like events you have to pay for. Everything you have to pay for now. You want to do like a world tour event, you have to pay for the ticket, and it's like $18. The content is now time gated now. It's just ridiculous. Like I think I play it because when I'm out and about and I'm going for a walk, I'll be on my phone and I'll catch Pokemon and stuff like that. But like I don't do the events anymore. I just want to fill up the Pokedex.
Who needs
Like,
to enjoy nature when you can be on your phone when you're walking?
exactly. But look, to me, is anything going to change? Not really. Like
Yeah.
like I'll turn it on when I'm going for a walk and I'll catch the Pokemons here and there. Usually, it's the type of game where I stop playing for a couple months and then I get back in and I'm like, oh, cool, more new Pokemon to catch,
Yeah.
right? So that's all. Like
I
don't
do
care
wonder
about
if Niantic kind of selling their gaming business has maybe there's been like a decline in players because over the game's not as popular as it used to be. It's gonna have that.
Well,
I was
What-
looking at this and I was thinking, I was like, for the amount of money that they probably make off of microtransactions for a Pokemon game, especially, maybe because it sold for 3.5 billion. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I can't help but think in my mind, I'm like, that's kind of a deal.
Because like they used to make a crazy amount of money in the first few years, especially when the game came out.
Oh,
Well, wasn't it-
they currently have 30 million active monthly users. And we all know that some of those for sure are whales, right? So the
Mhm.
amount of money that they're going to be spending, even over the course of the next few years, if this still keeps going, they're likely to make that money back in not that long. So like,
I agree, and I also think due to the popularity of Pokemon TCG that came out on iOS and Android, like it's possible that a lot of user base, like the player base, kind of moved from Pokemon Go to TCG.
But also, it could be like there's good synergy between the games, even if they're different publishers. There could be
Yeah.
like a reemergence of Pokemon Go players because of Pokemon TCG.
my God, it's been 10 years Pokemon Go.
You're fucking with me. It's been 10 years.
Yeah, I still
Yeah, buddy.
remember. I still remember when
God.
this wasn't fully out. I had like preloaded the whatever the Android file extension is again,
The APK.
the APK onto my phone, and I was like playing it.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Remember when this came out and it just united the world, man? Like
Catching
for-
Magmars,
just
right,
for
Manny?
for
the
like
amount of people that got into accidents playing Pokemon Go
Yeah.
while
like a
driving.
good month, the world just went into like its healing arc, and now we're just oh god, now we need Pokemon Go more than ever now. I think apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, what does this mean though? Like, what do you guys? Because you guys played this a lot more than I ever did. So,
Yeah.
what do you think this means for Pokemon Go? How do we see
More microtransactions.
things changing?
More,
Oh, yeah?
more monetization, just more microtransactions. It's going to be ridiculous, and also, like they already increased the price, the prices for items, right? Like like if you want to increase your item bag, your Pokemon bag, they've already increased, like how many coins you got to spend, and I think it's going to be even more now.
Yeah,
It's
because they limited the amount of coins you can get from gyms a while back,
Yeah,
and now they've increased the cost to get those upgrades. So it's like it
yeah, it's
takes
ridiculous,
a
dude.
lot longer to kind of get there.
And so the
So
enshitting claims another.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
All right. S-
Does that cover all the news? I think that covers all the news that
yeah,
we
I was
had.
gonna. Okay, it's because I was about to start the discussion question, but I'm like, this is another negative topic. But
Yeah,
you know what?
and
It's
we're
still kind of an interesting discussion to have.
Welcome to the
So
negative episode.
basically, so the question I was going to ask you guys today is, what is the worst game you've played? Now, it's interesting because I think we all have a different definition of what we think makes a game good. And
Mhm.
so I'm interested to hear what game it is, why it's bad from your perspective. And is it something like the general kind of population of gamers would agree on, or is it just because of your own personal take on it? And what didn't you like about it? Was it like this, the gameplay, the story, the visuals, the audios?
Oh my
Was it just
god.
not fun? And also, would you guys give it another second chance if it was remade, or if they kind of, if there was an update or something, or
I'm
maybe it was a product of
afraid.
its time?
I'm afraid that Taz. I don't know. I don't know if Taz picked the same game, but
Is it
if
Mass
it's
Effect
okay,
Andromeda?
Oh my
yes,
God. I didn't
yes.
even think of that. I had totally just
So
purged that from my mind.
so I actually, so if I'd be happy to start. For me, it was Mass Effect Andromeda. And look, like I've played worse games, like actual bad games, like Superman 64. I still remember when Taz went and he rented that game, and I was there, and we're like I think we went back and we returned it. So I remember, like, I'm not, for me, it's not the worst game ever, but to me, the reason why I chose Andromeda is that the other games, they were bad from the start. Mass Effect Andromeda to me stings because it was not just bad, but to me it was a massive disappointment, especially as a big fan of the franchise. Like, you guys know how much I love Mass Effect. You guys know how many hours I put into that whole franchise. To me, it was just the biggest disappointment ever. The trilogy is amazing, right? Like the trilogy, world building, the characters, the choices. Mass Effect Andromeda was the exact opposite of that. So to answer your question, Manny, that's why I picked it. It, like, the series set a bar so high for sci-fi RPGs that when Andromeda was announced, I remember Taz and I, we were so hyped for this game. Like, we were talking about this, and it just kind of came and just sputtered, like, since the get-go. Like, the gameplay was not great. It, to me, it felt like a looter shooter rather than an RPG. I remember Mass Effect 1, 2, 3 had like this beautiful tactical like combat that was gone. The teammates were like the storylines were not great. The AI was dumb as rocks. Just, to me, everything was forgettable. Like, the characters were a step down. The story was just uninspired. It was just very generic. So, and it sucks like talking about it because I'm still disappointed. And to answer your question, no, I would not give it a second chance, because even if they patch some bugs and they improve animations, because Taz, remember, there'd be a cutscene and you're talking to, like, I think it, like it's not Garrus or whatever, but like his face would just kind of morph and just kind of like stretch. There was like so many like weird things in the game, but
Every
even
time
if,
you talk to someone, their faces was made of plastic. No one had
but
any
then,
sort of
yeah, like,
emotion on their face. I mean,
and like,
it's not like that's what made the game bad,
yeah, but that's the
but
thing. Like, those
it's
things
also
can be
subpar
fixed.
quality.
Exactly. Like, those things can be fixed, but to me, I would never go back because they can't fix the core of the game. And the core of the game to me is the story, the characters, and the world. So
Right.
unless they rewrite the whole story and they're like, we're making Andromeda again, with like, like a better story and stuff like that, no, I would never play it. Right. And EA abandoned it, and BioWare is just crap. And plus it was not even BioWare's like a team; it was like the B team or something like that
Okay,
that made the
okay,
game.
you know what? I was thinking about this. I don't know why the other day. I don't like the argument about it being their A team or B team, because hear me out. They still represent the company,
Yes,
and that
but
shouldn't be an excuse for why a game isn't good.
That's
I don't
fair.
think I don't think we're looking for. I don't think it was excuse. I just think people are
Yeah.
looking for
Right. But
an
like,
explanation. Like what the fuck happened?
What could have
there's a lot that
happened?
went
But at
wrong
the
with
end of the
that
day,
game.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, for something like this, you can really only blame management because I can't help
100%.
I can't help but imagine the scenario where the dev team knows that this game is not ready. They know what state it's in, but because again, you have to appease investors, a release date has been set, the money's got to come in. The publisher, in this case, EA, BioWare, what have you, is like, not ship it. Just fucking let's get this out the door now. It's been long enough. This is how long you
Yeah.
had. I'm sure the developer put in a ton of hours with crunch at the end, like everyone else
Yeah.
would back in that day, and they likely still do now at some studios. But you know,
Oh, and
I don't
like
want to use the
I
whole B team thing either, because like
mm,
no studio sets out the purpose to make a bad game, right?
Yes.
So, but
yeah, like I fell for it 100%. I was in it. I even I almost consider pre-ordering it, and you know that I don't pre-order games.
Dude, I think 2 years ago I went through and played all the Mass Effect games in like a
including
month.
Andromeda.
No, so I finished Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and I was like, do I play through Andromeda?
I'm glad you didn't,
Yeah, I
man. I'm
didn't.
glad it didn't soil your love for the franchise. And I know that there's a new Mass Effect game coming out. Who knows when 4 is going to come out, if it even comes out. But I think that they're going to have to do a lot of damage control. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Like it just so again, so it's not the worst game ever. There are probably like so many more worse games, but to me, it's just the most
Right.
disappointing game. But yeah,
Well, so
that's my
like
opinion.
I'm interested to hear what your criteria was for a bad game from your perspective, and so
Yeah,
because like it differs from person to person, right?
for sure.
What about you, Taz? If it wasn't Mass Effect Andromeda, then what game is it?
I mean,
Anthem.
honestly, like I no. Honestly, I still stand on that hill where I think Anthem was something. It was. I don't think it was a bad game. I
No,
think
yeah,
mechanically it was
Yeah,
sound. I
yeah,
just think
yeah,
that some of the decisions and the lack of content kind of screwed it.
yeah.
And I think if they had continued working on, that Anthem 2.0 that they were reported to be working on, this
Anthem
could have
Next.
actually,
Yeah.
become something really good. So
but what is your game then?
honestly, so I kind of spent a bunch of time thinking about this because I was like, what is a bad game to me, right? And at the end, I'm like, I couldn't even think of the worst game that I'd played in recent years because these days it's kind of hard to play a terrible game, right? Because
Right.
there's so much information out there. There's constantly reviews, whether it's critics, whether it's users. There's so many, previews, there's information, YouTube videos, what have you. So like really finding a game that's shit and actually managing to buy it and play it and be like, wow, that's actually really sucks. It's
Well,
not easy to do these days. But
sometimes it happens that like where you get a game and like people rave about it, but then you're playing it, but it personally to you, it's kind of missing that fun factor where it's
Yeah,
like
you
yeah,
just
but
don't get
that's
it.
it's a
but that's
solid.
more of a subjective thing, right? Like if I'm
Exactly.
looking at
Yes.
worst game, I'm trying to look at something that's the worst from like an objective point of view.
No,
You
well,
know,
it's but the point of the question isn't supposed to be objective. It's very
correct.
much also subjective.
So I was
Yeah.
like, and I thought about it, and I was like, is it Red Dead 2? And
Oh,
Oh,
but then I'm like, then I started thinking, I'm like, why did I not like this game, right? And and it's something that I've gotten into before, even on the previous podcast from like back in the day. And mind you, this is not my worst game. If we're talking about my worst game, honestly, it's kind of a two-way tie between either Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub Zero or
I
or
fucking love that game.
no, you don't. Or
I did.
trust me, you don't.
I
you
did.
don't love
I
it.
finished
Uh,
it.
or Superman 64.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I do remember renting that game
Oh
and I do
man.
remember playing it. And this is back before I knew that like before I really had a concept of bad games. Because this is, I'm still very, very young. This is the days of the N64. 3D games are still like a new and novel thing. So anytime you're playing a 3D game like this, by the sole fact of it being 3D, it's amazing. And then I rent Superman 64 and I'm just like, I could not even get past the first actual level because it was like a ring. You go through rings, you fly through it. It's a tutorial, and the controls were just so
God awful.
absolute like essence of dog shit that I was like, I can't. Nothing that I'm trying to do is working. This game, that was the first time where I was like, wow, this is actually a terrible game. But If you're asking me what can be improved, literally everything. Every 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 core aspect of that game, from graphics to
Just
sound
break it
to
down and start
gameplay,
anew.
just like, yeah, that game, just forget it. Just take it out back and just fucking end its life. You know what I mean? Like, just that's it. Don't remake it.
So,
It's not worth it.
so is your game Superman 64 or is it Red
It's got to
Dead?
be those two. But I wanted to get into the discussion of Red Dead because I'm like, what made it bad for me? And it was honestly just the fact that it's not a good video game in my view. It's a good experience.
Simulation.
It's a good simulation,
Right.
right? But to me, a video game is it's especially compared to Red Dead 1, where you can it was a lot more Wild West. I could just go
Yeah.
rope someone, tie them up, put them on the back of my horse, go in the middle of nowhere, find train tracks, lay them down, sit there, chill, and watch the train fucking run them over, and then just carry on with my day. Whereas over here, I bump into someone with my horse and I have a bounty put on my head for fucking trespassing in their yard. I was like, what is this shit? Like, what are the
Uh,
I have to take care of my horse now. I need to brush it or he gets sick. I need to take care of my guns or they
I don't
jam.
know why I have this old memory of you complaining that you had to like shave or something, and then that was your entire gaming session that day.
It was just, there was so many things they added that I think if this is what you expected and wanted, you would love it. But to me, when they were like, we're making a Red Dead 2, in my mind, I was like, sweet, it's Red Dead 1, but bigger and better. And
Exactly.
and it wasn't that. Now, does that make it a bad game? No, because millions of fucking people love it, and in the end, it's like I told you guys previously, not long ago too. I'm actually willing to revisit it now with the mindset of knowing what I'm getting myself into this time. So it's a game that I might play. But anyways, all that aside, worst game, definitely fucking Superman 64 or Mortal Kombat. Probably more so Mortal Kombat.
No.
Yes, just do more
Okay.
because we're all Mortal Kombat fans, right? I
Yes.
mean, I've been playing them since the Super Nintendo. I remember, when my brother bought home Mortal Kombat 1 and then, 2 and 3 and whatever. We played every single iteration. We still play these games to this day. And when
Mhm.
Mythologies came out, I was like, oh, sick, a different kind of video game. It's like an adventure game. And you're Sub-Zero, like the coolest fucking, Sub-Zero and Scorpion were like the Ryu and Ken of Mortal Kombat. They were the shit. They were the poster boys. So now I'm like, yo, hold on. There's a side-scrolling, adventure, and you're playing Sub-Zero, wicked. And I rent this game, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why are these controls so bad? Why am I dying at absolutely nothing? Why do I keep failing these platforms? Why is the jumping so bad? Why is the detection so bad? I swear I landed on that pillar. Why am I falling through it and dying?
And don't
Like,
forget
just
the god awful cutscenes.
I
oh man,
think
that
I think what we need to
just
do
Quan Chi.
I think what we need to do for a future episode is that we revisit each of these games that we
I'm not
got.
revisiting that game.
No. So, Jazz, you have to revisit Mass
Stop it.
Effect Andromeda.
Stop it.
You have to do like a 5-hour playthrough.
What is
And then you
wrong
have to-
with you?
Taz, you have to revisit the Sub-Zero game and like Scorpion game.
You're acting like I insulted you. I said you have a big dick. I
Seriously.
don't understand. I
Come
paid
on,
you the
man.
highest
I
compliment
mean-
a man can pay another
Your
man.
third leg. Manny, what's your game?
Okay. It's funny because I came up with this question.
Destiny.
No, well, I have my own issues with Destiny, but like,
Anthem?
no, I actually liked Anthem.
Okay, so what is
It
your
had.
game? then?
I'm not really sure because because I thought about could it be Anthem?
Ooh.
No, but hold on. I do have an answer. I was thinking for a long time, is it Anthem? But I played so much of it, and for what it is, I still missed the game. It's some of the best gameplay till this day for a looter shooter.
Maple Story.
That wasn't a bad game.
Stardew Valley.
Okay, now you're just,
Stardew.
because for me, it's kind of like Taz, where like I'll do my research ahead of time, and so naturally, if I don't like a game, I'll just write it off, kind of move on, and just move. And I was thinking like what, and like I was also thinking about maybe Pokemon, like Scarlet and Violet, for instance, because like I had issues with that game, how really just terribly it ran, and
What do you mean? It was such a good PowerPoint presentation.
the few disconnects, the FPS drops, the freezes, it ruined what the enjoyment I got out of a Pokemon game, especially now when I'm playing like the Ruby and Sapphire games on the 3DS, and it's just like it's a completely different experience how a game can run so well on a fucking 3DS, but on the Switch can't even manage to run for not even 30 FPS.
So how do we
Anyways.
think? What was that new one they announced recently? How do we think that's going to run?
Fingers
it's gonna run
crossed that it
great.
runs
Zeta,
well on the Switch
ZA
too.
or whatever.
ZA, yeah. So the game I picked, just because I just kind of settled on this was Octopath's Traveler.
Whoa,
What?
that's
It
crazy.
it's a beautiful game, a beautiful JRPG. I love the 2.5 kind of
It's pronounced jerp.
2.5D perspective that they had with the pixelated kind of like traditional RPG graphics, and phenomenal game. Ran really well, played really well. A bit too grindy for my taste. The characters were interesting. The different classes, the fact that you can switch any characters to different classes, and as you progress through different classes, it opened up the game even more. There was good variety, but the single thing that pissed me off so much that I quit, like I could not proceed. So I'm not sure how much you guys know about Octopath, but the game it's a JRPG that follows 8 characters out on an adventure, and you kind of like recruit these characters, and you find out that their stories kind of mingle together, and everyone has their own kind of story quest line. The characters never interact with one another, which is the dumbest fucking shit you could have designed in a game like this. And that reason alone made
Oh,
me dislike the game. I think it severely decreased my fun factor. And so I was like, I can't proceed with this game after like a dozen or hours, and I had to drop it. And that's my cop out kind of answer.
that is a crazy. That's a wild
I
take.
feel like it doesn't make it a bad game.
I
But
think
that's the
that
thing.
alone it was entirely
I don't know.
misleading for what the game
I
said
guess.
it was, and then what it offered.
I think we have. I think we all have different definitions of a bad game, right? Because to
Yes,
Well,
me, a bad game is mechanically bad.
yeah, but
I
that's the
think.
thing. But his question was more like, but what makes a game bad, right? Like, are you talking about it objectively or subjectively, right? Because
yes,
he talked about Pokemon and he had expectations for said game and he was disappointed by it, right? I talked about Mass Effect and being a huge fan of the franchise and just being like all in, and then the game was actually objectively and subjectively bad in this case, right?
yes,
Because subjectively, because I didn't like the story and the characters, I didn't like the pacing, but also objectively because it had poor AI, weak writing, technical issues.
yeah.
So I
Right,
guess
but I mean,
in
but
yeah.
but let's say it had all that in terms of characters, but it played amazingly. Would you say that it's still as bad as you're
Because
currently
then
saying it
that his
is?
perspective would be more
But
subjective.
then
His
it's
opinion would be more
subjectively.
subjective.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like I mean, I think the question was not like what do you think is a technical flop, but it's more like to me like it's like okay, well it could be an expectations thing, right? It's like you with Red Dead, right? Like you were like, oh yeah, cool. It's like exactly like Red Dead One but bigger. But
like
turns
another
out
game
that
to
it's a
mention.
yeah.
Oh God, what's that? That flying ship game. You go from different planets and like
No Man's
Oh,
Sky.
No
No
Man's
Man's
Sky.
Sky. Like
Yeah, that's
think
true.
like that we were promised so much. Our expectations were high, and some of it can be blamed on us because we started like kind of like just falling down that rabbit hole of expecting more and more. But it's like look
Yeah.
at what the final product was.
Yeah. Fable could be one of them too, because Fable, like you were promised so many things in the
Yeah.
original game, and they delivered on like 1/10 of it, right? But Fable is still something that Manny holds dearly, and he's like super excited about the
Yeah.
series, and
Like, do you guys ever enjoy bad games? Like objectively bad games,
I think I enjoy it if I know. I would enjoy a bad game if I know beforehand that it's a bad game. I think I have to go into it knowing. But if
right?
I'm
Yeah,
expecting one thing and I get another, then that's different. Because if I'm going into a bad game knowing that it's bad, I'm making that choice to play it, and then I'm choosing to play this over other games that I know are good.
Right.
but
Because
what
like
makes a
I
bad
can
game enjoyable? Like, what
sometimes
makes an objectively bad
Sometimes
game?
it's just a curiosity, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's just for
Okay.
it's that
sometimes there
morbid.
could be elements
It's
of
that
it that's
morbid,
just
yeah.
enjoyable. Because like
And it's
Anthem
like
was
a bad
something you guys,
movie. Sometimes you just get
yeah,
enjoyment out of a bad movie, and then
It's the
sometimes
room. It's the
like
room.
Anthem you
yeah.
guys brought up, prime example. There's a lot to
Yeah,
dislike about the game, but the
for
gameplay alone
sure.
for that game made me enjoy it so much. Destiny, I'm not blind to its flaws, especially Destiny 1 and especially
Oh,
vanilla Destiny 2. It's like there's a lot that's to dislike about it, but there's certain things that it does so well that you're just like, well,
I mean,
yeah,
the
the
I'm gonna
gunplay
enjoy
is
it.
gunplay.
top
Yeah,
notch, right?
Like the
So
gunplay is like one of the best like
that's it.
in any fp game that I played. So yes, I agree, it is an interesting discussion topic because yes, all of us have a different definition. I just find it funny that that Manny knew right away that I was gonna pick Andromeda.
To be fair, I also thought that would be Taz's answer too.
I was afraid too. I was
Honestly,
like, oh man, I really
when
hope.
you mentioned it, I was like, "Yo, how did I not think of this game?" And I think it's because I had successfully purged it from my mind. And now
I'm
you
sorry.
guys have brought it back into my psyche, and just I'm
You're
gonna
welcome.
sleep a little
So,
less tonight.
so Manny, so are we doing this? Like, you're gonna play Octopath Traveler for
I
like 5
guess
hours?
so. Yeah,
I don't want to do this.
but that's the fun of it.
I'll do it on stream.
Sure.
I think that would
Yeah,
be
why not?
I think
Each Monday we
I'm
take a
thinking.
turn.
I'm willing to
I
put some time in, I guess, and try
I
to
hate Monster Hunter Wilds. I guess I'll have to play that.
Yo,
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
enjoying it at all.
I will say one thing about Monster Hunter Wilds, okay? That story mode, ass. All right? Nata, all right? Let me tell you
Uh-oh.
this. Nata, all right? Not a fan.
Okay.
Not a fan of
Okay.
Nata. That
I
kid
can't.
is a little fucking twerp. Has no business going on these hunts on these giant monsters. Every single cutscene of him is just crying. He's just the most annoying child
Okay.
I've had to lug around in a video game.
Okay. What the fuck? Monster
End it,
Hunter
Manny.
Wilds has literally one of the best story of all the Monster Hunter games.
Subjective versus objective, guys. Come on.
I guess. All right. If
The
we're gonna
story-
end it on a shit
okay.
take, sure. That's
The
you know what.
the story itself, interesting
Oh my
beats, not
God.
terrible. Fine. But Nata, oh my god.
Okay, so it's not
anything
the
that
story. You just don't like the character.
Can I hunt him?
Oh
I'm
my
sure there's a
God.
mod for it. Okay.
I will slay a child in this game.
That was the hottest of takes.
Oh boy.
I
All right.
thought
On
I
that
thought the
note.
Octopath Traveler was going to be a hot take, but Taz just took the cake.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right.
take
On
it
that
away,
note,
Manny.
Speaking
thanks
of
for
cake,
watching.
nice booty jazz.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Not Quite High Score. As per usual, you guys can email us your suggestions, questions, feedback at notquitehighscore@gmail.com.
The world's loneliest inbox.
If you guys are listening to this on a audio platform, we do also post the video podcast. If you guys want to look at our lovely faces over on YouTube, channel is Not Quite High Score. And that's a wrap. See you guys on the next one.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Send me an email.